Something that I know a lot of people are wondering when they think about creating their own business and selling products on their own website instead of one of those third-party platforms is, how am I going to get customers when I'm out here all by myself? How will they find me if I'm not in this place with all of these other teacher products? Okay, so when I say that we're going to find our future customers and bring them into our world, this is what I mean. You are going to narrow down and locate people who are interested in the products that you're creating. Of course, you want to have your product created before you actually start collecting these people. Some say to do that backwards. However, I think it makes sense to have at least one product created so that you can focus all of your intention onto creating that product. And then once it's ready to sell, you can start collecting people, cultivating a community, and finding these future customers to bring into your world. The first is by creating organic content, which, by the way, is exactly what I'm doing right now with this podcast. The Teacher Biz podcast is my organic content for Teacher Biz that hopefully is helping me build a relationship with you while I'm in your earbuds and encouraging you, and also is bringing you into my world. Your organic content does not need to be a podcast. I think a podcast is probably the best choice right now. However, when I was first starting out in my business, there was no way that I would have been comfortable with my voice on a podcast. That was a whole journey. I actually think maybe I'll make an extra episode about that, how I went from hating my voice and being embarrassed for even my friends to hear my voice recorded to now being totally comfortable doing a podcast because I know that this form of communication really will serve you. And that's my goal. I have you in mind instead of myself, but I know that there's a whole mindset shift that has to happen before you get to that point. So maybe you're not super comfortable with a podcast right now. If you are, I think that probably is the best way to go because it can be so easily repurposed into all of the other pieces of organic content. But your other options are a blog post or a YouTube show or a regular live video on something like social media. But we'll talk more about social media next. Basically, for organic content, you can do a podcast, a blog post, or a video show like on YouTube. Here's the thing that's kind of a secret about that is that really you could choose one and then make it all three at once by turning your blog post into a podcast and a YouTube show, or turning your YouTube show into a podcast or a blog post, or what I think is easiest, starting with a podcast and then turning that into a blog post and a video in some form too. You choose the one that feels most comfortable towards you, that fits your skill set. If you're a great writer, then maybe you start with a blog. If you are comfortable on video, then maybe you start with a YouTube. And I would not start with all three at once. I would really choose the one that feels the best to you and stick with that. And then I would do it so regularly, once a week, every single week, so that you are showing up for your people and building that relationship for them. By the way, that doesn't mean that you're actually creating a blog post or a podcast or a video show every single week. That would be hard to do and hard to keep up with. What you do instead is exactly what I do for this podcast and everything else I do, and that's called batching. It's a little bit advanced for this episode, but it just means that in one day, you create multiple pieces of content, and then you don't have to actually create that content every single week in order to show up consistently. All right. So organic content is one way to find your people. They'll find you in search. They'll find you when people share that content. You might find me if you search for teacher or business or something like that in Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to your podcast. People will find you through your organic content. And then you want that content to be optimized to bring them into your world, which means that there's a place for them to put in their email to hear more from you. preferably in exchange for something of value. Like, for example, this is exactly how I do it. Just it's so meta. Model me. Do what I do because I've practiced this and I kind of know what works at this point. So, if you would like to hear more from me, you can go to teacherbiz.com/start. You will get my free starter guide, which will give you the first 3 steps to start your own teacher biz, as well as some journal prompts and some great tips and strategies for you. I think you need that guide if you want to start an online business and you are a teacher, and you can get it for free at teacherbiz.com/start. Do you see what I did there? I told you about something of value that I created for you that I think is really powerful and that you need. I told you where to get it, and you'll need to enter your name and your email to get that free resource. This is how you build an email list and cultivate this community. I would love to have you in my community so that I can support you as you are creating your teacher biz. And you will do the same thing for your people. You will give them a place to exchange their email address for something of value that you're giving to them. And by doing that in your organic content, you are building your email list, building your community, building your customer base as well. And it's just a really powerful thing. So I think organic content is really great for relationship building, for building your community. It's a good place to start.